Hi everyone, this is Maken Changes and I am your host, Honey. And today with us we have a special guest and he goes by the name of Migs Whiskey. Migs, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Migs Whiskey. I'm a singer-songwriter from Southern California. I do outlaw folk, storytelling at heart. You know, I tell my story, and in certain songs I tell the story of other great men that I've met in my life. That's it.
So, family.
I have a 12-year-old son and a wife.
Nice.
My mother, and I had two sisters. I lost a sister to cancer, leukemia.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and pretty much it's part of the story too. So everything falls into play. Grew up in Southern California, born in Orange, raised in LA and Orange County, exactly to be Montebello and Anaheim.
Nice.
So I got to taste both sides of the fence, of the tracks.
Crazy. Growing up, did you ever fall into like any gangs or anything?
I always grew up in gang neighborhoods. Every neighborhood I grew up in had a gang. Mm-hmm. Never got a part of it. I wouldn't say I didn't dabble in it. It's just it never caught my attention. Just I don't know, maybe like the whole part, like not to like get into it too much, but like killing each other for a neighborhood we don't even own real estate in.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was in the punk rock scene. I wasn't a non-educated kid. I just didn't like school. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't completely stupid, and I didn't get into that part of it, but I definitely got into the crime aspect of it. Right. So I never would say I got into the gang banging, but I got into the criminal element of it.
In trouble.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
All right. So, I mean, I grew up in a single mother home. Stepfather was in and out. Obviously, mother working 2 to 3 jobs to pay the bills. I found my comfort in my identity out on the streets, mm-hmm. and immediately gravitated towards the most broken individuals. Obviously, being way older than me, they were already, doing drugs and committing crimes. Some of them were affiliated with gangs, but some of them weren't. Mm-hmm. Some of them were just full-on drug addicts, and then just doing it to make some quick cash. And with that came a lifestyle that I started falling in love with little by little. There's different things in my life too. I got into skating, I got into punk rock, I got into different things, but I mean, eventually it all ended up in a criminal element. Mm-hmm. And with time, I just kept going down that world and got lost in it, and graduated till eventually I became who I was. And like I said, I was what I would say a full-on career criminal. Like everything I did was selfish and self-centered.
At what age would you say that all this started?
I want to say it started around, obviously not like immediately, but it started around 9 years old.
Really?
I mean, even my drinking, the first time I ever got drunk, I was 9 years old at my cousin's quinceañera. And I was already starting to get like a feeling of ways to escape my reality. And
what made you get to that point to where you were just like, fuck it, I'm gonna drink?
I was a pretty broken kid, always trying to find love in all the wrong places, and I don't know, it kind of just fell in. Everybody, in Mexican culture, I'm not trying to stereotype us, but we drink, talk about the Irish being alcoholics. Yep. Mexicans don't fall far from that tree,
I think we're like cousins.
Yeah, for real.
My Irish cousin, yeah.
So that's what happened, and I was at a quinceañera, and we started drinking. I think it was tequila con squirt and Sol beer, and it was me and my cousin, and I felt what a buzz was, and I kind of understood why my uncles kind of did it after that point. I'm not gonna say that after that point I was drinking every time, every weekend or something like that, but I'm gonna say that after that, every chance I got to alter my state of mind, I ran towards it. And it was like a beginning. So like that's when it started going. And like I said, like criminal element, like I was already going into the liquor store, stealing, You know, I was already lying. I was doing all this stuff already, which eventually like was perfect to where I was going, which was just a broken kid looking for some form of escape.
Yeah. Something to numb the pain, pretty much.
Yeah, and then, you know, just I was pissed at the world. You know, we were freaking broke. My mom worked 2 to 3 jobs, so I hardly saw her. Me and my stepdad's relationship wasn't strong. I mean, I was told he was my father, but he never treated me like it. Eventually found out he wasn't my true father, my real father. And I mean, it was obvious, I mean, the way he treated me. And that, like, there's no resentment there no more, no like self-pity. I'm not a fucking victim or nothing. It's just the way it is, you know? I mean, who the hell wants to raise some kid that's not yours? You know, and I know people do it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm just saying, like, where he was at, I could see it from his, I can empathize with him today.
Okay.
You know, and I was just mad, and I just stayed out on the streets, and like I said, that's where I found my circle. Mm-hmm. So with that came, like I said, a lot of different things, and I eventually found punk rock. Mm-hmm. I was skating, I listened to punk rock, a bunch of like bands like the Sex Pistols, the Ramones, the Clash, all the classics. And then I found that group and I started going to backyard gigs.
So you started playing?
I started going first to backyard gigs.
Okay.
And then I saw the homegirl play guitar. 2 of the homegirls. Mm-hmm. One of them, you know, passed away, and then the other one's still around.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but I'm glad that I met them, because it literally opened what everyone sees today, which is me being a guitar singer songwriter. Watched them play. I think it was my birthday. My mother went to the Montebello Mall with me and bought me a guitar. It was a Sunlight acoustic, and I took it home and we played. And me and Vicious, which is my brother that I jam out with, decided to start a band. So we went to Pico Rivera and started a backyard band, you know, just in the garage of a house in Pico Rivera, and we started a band. And then the music started. I was in the gigs. I was doing drugs. By that time, I was already smoking weed.
How old were you?
I want to say I was like 12, 13. I was already smoking weed. I started doing coke, and then by the time I was I want to say 14, I was already doing a lot of other stuff. Mm-hmm. I was like a dumpster. I was just like, what do you got? Like, what does that do? Mm-hmm. And I just tried stuff, and I started trying everything, and eventually by the time I was 16, I was a full-blown drug addict.
Oh shit.
Like straight up, like, I wouldn't say like straight up homeless, smoked out, but I was like, I didn't know what reality was without a substance in my body by that time. I was like either stoned, I was drunk, and it was, I mean, I was able to get away with it because my mother worked so much.
I was about to ask you that. So did she ever notice?
I mean, I mean, she probably did, but my mom has never done a drug in her life. Mm-hmm. So like, even if she had like a suspicion, she wouldn't be able to even know if it was right or wrong. She was, like I said, working 2 to 3 jobs, so I was able to hide it. And then not only that, I was a little manipulator, lying, you know, youngster. So I try to figure out every way, the eye drops, you know, the clear eyes, the just don't come home. I'm staying at my homeboy's pad, sleep over, not even there. I'm out in the riverbed, you know. There was a lot of that. And eventually I got busted at school for being pretty much absent enough days to be like truant for like a year. Oh, and at that time, they used to make you sign like a contract or something, and like you have to come to school. And then I was accused of selling drugs. I fought that at school. I was like, no, I'm not selling drugs, which I was. And then they sent me to this program in East LA called Bienvenidos. I bet it's probably still there, and it was an introduction to something new. It was a bunch of veteranos as counselors, and they were pretty much counseling us. Mm-hmm. So they would separate us in male, female, and parents. And It was my introduction to like something different. Something different that I never had. And I guess it was guidance because I didn't have none of that.
Yeah.
So it was all these veteranos that been there, done that, all from well-known neighborhoods in East Los, Boyle Heights area, and certified drug and alcohol counselors. And they would sit there and then just, this is where you're gonna go if you keep going down this path. And
do you feel that the way that they spoke to you at that time? How old were you when you went there?
I want to say I was in 8th grade.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Would you say that at that age, them talking to you how they were talking to you, or trying to, I don't know if they were drilling you, but trying to get that in you, do you feel that it helped you in some kind of way?
Yes, I do. Nothing's better than an addict talking to another addict. Nothing's better than an alcoholic talking to an alcoholic. Nothing's better than a gang member that has gotten out of a gang life, or a criminal that has gotten out of the life to speak on it, because you have credibility. And I think that's what those guys had. You know, I know.
Yeah.
They had that. They had the credibility to be like, no, I was you, youngster. Like, I'm not this fool with a tie and a suit with a PhD and a master's degree right here that lets you know what I know.
Yeah.
I know because I lived it.
True.
And that changed me. It did. I forgot it was so long ago, I forgot his name, but one of them really made a big impact on me. And I ended up getting clean. I got clean from the drugs, but at the time, you gotta remember, at this time I'm young as hell. I only consider coke, meth, heroin, PCP, angel dust, these things as drugs. I didn't consider weed in that category, and I didn't consider alcohol in that category. So when I got clean, I got clean from that. But I was still at the pad once in a while getting drunk. And not only that, you gotta remember, I'm a criminal. At this point, I'm already selling Yeska, selling anything I can to like be able to buy what I want. Like let's say I wanted some kicks, I'm not asking my mom for it. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go get it. So it made me a better drug dealer, let's say. And that's not like I was becoming Scarface. I was just like trying to buy the things that I wanted and keep my habit alive too. So I wasn't trying to become no Scarface or nothing. I was just a young kid that just hated the system, didn't want to work a real job, and that's how we found it. That's how I was able to keep money in it. So even though they helped me get clean and admit that I had a problem with drugs, I wasn't willing to look at the behavior yet, which is later on comes more in the story. So with that being said, by this time I have a band called Vicious Assault. We're taking off in East Los. We're playing all the east side and the west side. And eventually somewhere along the lines I got out of Vicious Assault, and we were like moving a lot. And in that moving a lot was moments of like, I don't know, questioning where I was gonna go. Is it gonna be music? Am I gonna start just working construction? I just didn't know. I was like, I just didn't build anything. So those were like the lost periods. So I was always still playing guitar. Guitar was always like my thing. I picked it up no matter what. Eventually left the band, and that's when me and Vicious kind of didn't talk no more. And I went into like what I would say a state of being lost and trying to find myself, which I was just doing crimes from like houses, cars, anything. And that's who I started hanging out with, which was like bikers, gang members, criminals. I was moving to Vegas. You know, I went up to Utah one time thinking I'm gonna get away. Freaking first month there, I'm already meeting everybody that's moving anything out there. It's like anywhere I would go, I would find my people.
It's like, hey, we're over here.
Yeah. So it didn't matter where I went, I would always find myself. And that was like a constant repetitive thing that like no matter what I would try to change, there was always still something broken, and I knew it. I knew something's up. But music always stayed consistent. and the love for the people that were always there for me was always there. And I don't know, I guess like I started going through this thing that they call like depression. You know, I just didn't know I was lost. I was just, at this point I'm just drinking and I'm just like committing crimes and just on the block drinking 40 ounces, sleeping with girls and just doing my thing. I tried, go ahead.
Do you think you would mask, you were probably depressed from a long time ago and you just didn't know it because you were so involved in partying and all that. I know because a lot of people that I know have said that, hey, I was depressed since I was little, but I didn't realize it because I felt like everything was normal.
Yeah.
That same feeling, and I was just like, hey, you know what? I felt this before. I know I'm gonna get over it type of feeling, which is fucked up, especially as a little kid to be feeling like that.
Yeah, and I think that's what it comes back down to, even being a little kid and always trying to escape my reality.
Yeah.
I always tell everybody, like, when you're doing something and you're trying to escape your reality, why are you trying to escape your reality? What's so fucked up about your reality that you got to escape it? And I was trying to do that since the beginning, 9 years old, even probably before that. So I was, and eventually that, like, they like to, I hear this a lot, sick and tired of being sick and tired, you know, and eventually that was happening. I was just like, it wasn't like I was doing something, expecting something different. I already knew what I was gonna get. Like I almost had made peace with it, and it was sick. And then I don't know, like somewhere like around my late teens, I started like trying to seek help. I was like, there's something wrong with me. Yeah. And
you decided?
Yeah, I decided. Yeah. So I was like,
what got you to that point where you were just like,
oh my God. I mean, goddamn, I was just miserable. Like at this point, and there was nobody, like I said, there was no guidance. Like the first guidance was like, bienvenidos. Yeah. And I didn't have that. Nobody in my neighborhood was doing good. Nobody I was with was doing good. And if they did, they were away from me. Because that's what they did. They would leave to get good and then never come back. So I was just at this place, and then I like started seeking help, and I went to a therapist. And I remember at this fucking point, I'm doing drugs again and I'm drinking. And I'm like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna try therapy. And I wanna go see a therapist, and I did a couple sessions, and eventually like she gives me like a prescription to some antidepressants. And I'm like, like, no offense, like, and this is back to smart fucking Migs, that even though he's a fucking idiot, he at least knows how to like differentiate from like something like, I don't know, like that just doesn't make sense. I remember looking at her and I'm like, no offense, but like, I'm here because of drugs. Yeah. Like, what makes you think that this drug is gonna make me feel? And I mean, at the end of the day, if it does make me feel, ain't I gonna be dependent on this shit anyways? Like, I'm already dependent on stuff. Right. And she kind of like saw like the anger and the frustration, and she's like, look, it goes against my practice, but maybe you should try God. And I was like, oh my God. And at this point, I'm not saying I'm atheist, but I'm just saying like, oh, here we go with this shit. Like the God thing. I should probably go to church and find something higher than me. And I leave her office and I'm like, thank you for your help. You know, and a year later, I end up getting locked up. Fuck. And then I get locked up.
How long were you locked up for?
For a year. I did the county lid. And then I'm in there. First charge is armed robbery. And then they're like trying to throw the book at me.
Were you still underage?
I think I was 19. Okay. So I was gonna go upstate. And I was like, fuck it. Like the moment I got there, I was like, I never wanted to be here, because like I thrived. It even fed my ego that I was good at what I did. Multiple houses, multiple cars. The thing, I did all these crimes and never got caught from. Like my uncle always told me, and it's probably not the best thing to tell a youngster, but he's like, if you suck at doing crimes, you might as well get a day job. Because the whole reason about doing crimes is to get away with it. So when homeboys used to come out and be like, hey, I just got out, to me it was nothing to brag about, because I'm like, you got pinched. So I wasn't really proud about this moment. But then I wasn't really ashamed of it either, because it was like, well, where I come from, this is gonna happen eventually. Yeah. Here I am finally gonna graduate, go to the county and go upstate, And there I am in the system. And I'm just like, oh God, here we go again. Another goddamn trial or tribulation where I got to learn something that am I going to learn. They're trying to throw the book at me. My mom visits me and she says, try the God thing. You know, my mom was like super Catholic. And I'm like, all right. And at this time, I think she said that I'm like at the one-man cells. No, I'm at the Anaheim Police Department. Mm-hmm. And they have this little button. And I push the button. I'm like, yo, man, give me something to read, bro. Like, I don't know when you guys are going to transfer me to the county, but like, just give me something to read. Eventually, I fucking constantly pushed the button, and eventually they shot me one of these Living Waters, which is like a blue book that pretty much is the book of John. Mm-hmm. And I started reading it, and then something started just happening. I don't know what it was, but something. And then I get transferred, and in some weird freaking way, when they put me on the bus to go to the county, they're like, if you guys shut the fuck up, we'll put some music on. They closed the gates, and they opened the gate. We see the sun come in, and they start driving, and he puts the music, and the first song that comes on is I'm on the Highway to Hell from AC/DC. I'm on the highway to hell. And I'm like, what the fuck? Here it goes, more coincidences. And I'm looking at the situation, and I'm like, what the fuck? Is that like a sign? And I always believed in that shit. Mm-hmm. Go to the county, eventually go in there, and I meet a paisano, and me and him start reading the Bible. And little by little, I get through the book of Matthew. Mm-hmm. They call church. I go to church. Something to get out of self. I'm trying something else. I'm so fucking desperate at this point. Mm-hmm. And then I met this guy, and he's not religious. And he's all like, we're just having a conversation. I'm just telling him when I was running out there and what I was doing, you know, all that. And he's all, man, you sound like an alcoholic. And I'm like, what? And he's all like, you should come to this meeting. It's a support group for people like us. And then I got introduced to that. I want to tell you that my life changed after that, but it didn't completely. Mm-hmm. But something did change. A seed was planted.
Right.
I got out of the system with it. They lowered some charges. Gave me what they gave me. My lawyer's all like, hey, if you never come back, you won. You beat the system. Mm-hmm. I'm like, whatever that means. And I'm like I said, going back to my ego, I'm like, they're never going to catch me again. Got out. And in a month, I was back to my BS. But this time, I had the knowledge of who Jesus was. And I had knowledge of a group of men and women that get together and speak about their problems with their addiction.
Which is very important.
And those were the seeds. And then I get out, go back to my hustle and bustle, drinking, drugging, party. I meet my girl. We eventually have a kid. Put her through stuff. Just make everybody in my life go back to that whole thing. Like, here I am all over again with some new system. In 2014, so now I'm going to jump into 2014, my sister was diagnosed with cancer. And I want to tell you that I was like such a good fucking brother, but I wasn't, because I remember the day my mom hit me up. They didn't have a car. Mm-hmm. And my sister had these little bruises all over her body. And she said, can you give me and your sister a ride? And I was so in my addiction and selfish and self-centered that I said, ask my sister Jenny, or ask somebody else. I got things to do. Eventually, they talked me into it. It's sad that they had to, because that's how selfish I am. And I drove up, picked her up, and my sister and dropped them off at the hospital. And then I took off. And I went to go get fucked up. And there I was drinking, and I got a phone call. And I'm just, someone crying hysterically, and obviously I could see by the caller ID it's my mother. And I'm like, I can't understand you. Like, stop crying. And she's like, she's got cancer. And I'm like, who's got cancer? It's like, your sister. And there I go. Instead of like thinking, damn, I should go be there for them, I start thinking, fuck, dude, I need to get fucked up. This is fucked up for me. It's always about me. But I still couldn't see it. Fast forward a couple more months. I didn't know the gravity of the cancer was like 50-50 chance she was gonna live. But why would they tell me? Why would they tell anybody that's always selfish and self-centered? We'll make it about ourselves. My mom couldn't tell me because then she already knew. If I told you, you would have made it about yourself. Because everything's got to revolve around Migs. Eventually, we got the phone call. She's at the ICU and she's fighting for her life. I wouldn't have known that it was going to be the last 25 days of her life. I'm sitting there at City of Hope, and I actually stayed sober. Like I did. Like I was at the hospital, sleeping at the hospital, there making some decisions with the doctors that I just wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. And then I remember like going back to like the jail moment. And I read a lot of the Bible when I was locked up that year. Not only did I read Matthew, I read John, Luke, I read Revelations, a couple of Proverbs. And I remember it said, you have to love me more than you love your mother, your brother, your sister, because I'm the only one that's gonna be there for you. And I remember I went down and they had like this temple at City of Hope at the same building, and I sat there and I'm like, yo bro, like, I know I always come just for your selfish prayers, and I like wanted to say something, but then I remembered what they say in Christianity. They say thy will be done. So I'm like, there I go, thinking that I still have control over this. Like I'm gonna fucking wish her to get better, when really what it is thy will be done. And that was this moment where I had to reflect, like I had a moment, like an epiphany, and I was like, I sat down and I was just like, thy will be done. And I like for a second, like I started thinking about that, and I still think about that. Like, do people know what that means? That means that it's gonna be his will, not mine. And his will was to take my sister. She ended up passing away. The moment we put her 6 feet underground, I start drinking heavy. I'm using coca on a heavy basis. I'm committing crimes again. I'm just self-destructive. I got my kid, I got my fucking old lady, and they're just going through it with me.
That must have been tough.
Yeah, and I'm 34. At 26, I go to the doctor because I have these back pains. It was like almost like, I don't know, 2 years into like my sister's death. And they're like, the doctor comes like, yo, I don't know what you're doing, but your liver's not gonna see 40. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, dude, like your levels are high. Like, how much do you drink? And I was like, I just drink on the weekends. And I was lying out of my teeth. There's a reason why they call me Migs Whiskey. It's not a cute freaking stage name. It was because literally I was always drinking whiskey. A paisano gave me that name. He would always he didn't even know my name. He just called me Whiskey. So when I eventually started coming up with this whole outlaw folk music, they always called me Migs, and I just added the whiskey. And it was nothing added because it was already always there. So I leave the doctors. Did I change? No. I keep drinking. I would drink a bottle of Jack a day, 2 if there was Coke, and there was always Coke. And I'm not talking about the soda. And that's how my life went for a while. And then eventually, I hit a rock bottom. You know, you hear about this thing, rock bottom. And for me, it wasn't homeless. For me, it wasn't being locked up. To tell you the truth, getting kicked out of the pad was good for me. I could stay in my addiction. And to tell you the truth, I mean, goddamn, they give you 3 meals in a bed in jail. And if you get used to that and you like violence, you don't mind not sleeping with a woman once in a while, you kind of get used to that. That wasn't my rock bottom. My rock bottom was a physical and a mental one. My depression was at its highest. Anxiety attacks became panic attacks. And my liver was freaking so
Were you
inflamed.
in any pain at that
Oh
time?
my God, I was in pain here. I was in pain emotionally. I drank to just like literally numb everything.
Yeah.
And I went like that for a long time. Everyone knew. Even the homies that even used with me, they would be like, yo, bro, like you really gotta like get it together. I mean, even my co-connect at one point, he's like, bro, I can't fucking sell to you no more, dog. Like you gotta get some help, bro. Like you're on some other shit. Like you're trying to like kill yourself. And eventually one night I went out. I must have hit like 2 strip clubs, 3 bars, smoked crack, which I didn't even freaking know that stuff was still around. Did a little bit of bumps of this, a little bit of bumps of that. Drank a bottle of Jack, maybe 2, I forgot what it was. I know I was drinking at every bar. And I woke up the next day, and I want to tell you, like, I know what it was. I just don't know. It just like I would wake up every morning the same. I would wake up, run to the restroom, throw up, and wash my face and do 2 key shots of coca on each nostril, and then go get a bourbon on the rocks with 3 ice. That was my morning routine. Every morning before I put breakfast in me. And if I had to go to work, I would just take the shooters and drink them as I went to work. I was a full-blown alcoholic, drug addict. And I don't know what it was this morning. I woke up after that crazy ass night and I threw up in the toilet like I did. And then I looked at myself in the mirror and I washed my face and I said, I can't keep doing this. Then I grabbed that little Coke bag that I have in the little Coke pocket and I threw it in the toilet. And I'm like, well, you better be about it. And 30 minutes later, I realized I wasn't about it. I was hurting. I had dropped all the alcohol. I was hurting. My doctor later on told me I could have died. I didn't know that when you're getting off benzos or alcohol, you could die. But I did it. Cold turkey in that moment. I must have done that for like 2-3 days till I could finally get out of bed, and then I dragged my ass to a church. It was a Catholic church. And I got on my knees and I said, God, if you're freaking real, please help me out. Because this monkey is big and I can't get her off my back. And then it all clicked. I remembered everything I read in jail. And then I remembered about that support group. And I'm like, okay, there's a meeting around the corner. So I went to the support group and I became a member. And then they gave me some simple tools with some simple steps, and I was willing to do it. And eventually, those steps and those simple tools brought success in my recovery and brought success in my music. I started writing again. I started playing again. And by this time, everybody already had seen on Instagram that I lost my sister to cancer. And I started dropping all my songs. Little YouTube videos here and there. And everyone's like, when's the album coming out? Eventually some songs came out and I started playing shows and I started seeing some success. And it was all based off doing what I had to do to get through. And things just started looking up.
At that moment when you pretty much started recovering, all those feelings that you had numbed, how did it make you feel? Just, was it guilt? Was it
guilt, shame, resentment, self-pity? I mean, there was a lot. So in the support group, they have this one part of this step where you write this stuff down. They call it an inventory. And I remember when he gave me this piece of paper, I took it home and I waited for my wife to fall asleep and everyone to fall asleep. And I went to my little hallway and I sat there and I started writing this stuff down. It said, who are you resentful to? And I just started throwing names on there. It was names, people, places, the cops, the judges, this, that, so much things. And then why? Oh my God. Went on and on and on and on. But then there's two more questions. How did that make you feel? And I was like, man, what was your part in it? And that's when I kind of was confused. I was like, yo, what was my part in it? Like, these fools hurt me. And then I call this dude, part of the group, and I'm like, yo, what does it mean? And then he broke it down for me and I started writing it. Then it talked about another one. It talked about the people that I've hurt. And then I start writing the people I hurt. Then the people I've had sex with. All the females I had sex with. Why did I start those relationships? What did I get out of it? And then my fears. And then I wrote that. And by the time I was done looking at this, it was like 3 a.m. and I'm glad it was, because I felt a resentment towards myself. Because like in paper, in black and white, there it was. 10% was life, 90% was my reaction to it. If I could just react differently in those moments, none of that stuff would have happened. And then like, there was a quote, my uncle, even though, you know, he's got his flaws, he's always had wisdom. One of them being, if you can't commit a crime and get away with it, get a day job. Another one thing that he said is like, hey, life's already gonna screw you. Stop screwing yourself. And that's exactly what I got from this. Like, I had a pretty messed up life, but many people do.
Yeah.
Like, little aspects of it. But I added gasoline to a fire.
Yeah.
I was already like, single mother. Dog, you're already screwed a little bit. But doesn't mean you gotta go all the way in. I went all the way in. No matter what, I went all the way in. So that was one of the most revealing steps out of all of them for me. I started seeing that, man, I got these characteristics, and I want to add this to it. A lot of people think that this support group's only about abstinence, staying sober. The support group I'm a part of is not about abstinence. It's about recovery, and there's a difference. Sobriety is the abstinence of a substance. I don't touch that. Recovery is healing and finding what you lost. And what I realized there is that I lost myself. I'm not a part of this support group because I couldn't stay sober or get sober. I'm a part of this group because I want to stay the long course of it. Because no matter what, like, I got 6 months one time, 8 months sober. I can do that. People think it's like lack of power of will. It's not that. It's that just eventually, if you don't deal with what's really the underlying problem, you're gonna find a way to escape. And there's so many ways to escape. So for me, that's what it is I'm not a part of this group because I couldn't stop. I'm a part of this group because I want to stay stopped. I never want to pick it up again. And that's what I do. That's why I do this support group with them.
Through the main people in your life that you hurt, at what point did you apologize to them?
Well, that's a part of that step too. You're able to see your flaw and your wrong in it, the character defect. But another thing that I learned from this support group is if you're gonna go and apologize, but you're not gonna change what actually made you do it, that's manipulation. So I needed to find out exactly what I did wrong and believe that I actually did something wrong and really change that by contrary action.
Because at the moment when you were doing it, you felt that you were just...
Yeah, I was unconscious to it.
Yeah.
Now I'm conscious to my character defects, lust, greed, selfishness. And now that I'm aware of them, now I know. So they've helped me become a better human being. They help me be accountable, to show up, to be there for other people, to take shit seriously, to take care of my responsibilities as a man. And that's what I think is the success for my business.
Yeah.
Is the success as being a father. Like today I actually get out of work and I go read with my son. You know, stop and read with them.
You said that he's how old?
He's gonna be 12 this month.
Did you at any point realize how it was affecting your son?
Oh, for sure. I don't really talk about this in other interviews, but I'll say it here. My son's gonna be 12. I got sober when he was like 5 or 6, and at the time, he wasn't speaking. He was in a special class because they thought he was autistic. Found out he wasn't autistic.
Yeah.
Then the teacher's like, usually we have late bloomers. And I'm like, well, I don't know what it is. No one knows what it is. Crazy thing, the first year I got clean and sober, my son came out like a shell.
Oh, that makes me want to cry. Because I experienced something like that with my 15-year-old. But yeah,
Amen.
Back to you.
And that's exactly, that's what it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And when I had my brother Nate had to bring it up to me. And he's like, hey, you don't trip out that like when you got clean, your son started becoming who he was.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of think about a psychologist that I follow, and I love his books. He talks about, like, in one of the videos, he talked about how, like, sometimes a lion doesn't have to really be ferocious and stuff. He just has to be sitting there. And him just sitting there makes the little cubs feel confident. And I believe that that's what happened to my son. He just needed to have my presence there, and he felt confident. Something that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And I've made my peace with my stepfather and my father that was never present. But you know, at the end of the day, I had to become the man that I needed. You know, and it's because of God and these men in this group that I go to, and men that I'm allowed to I'm around today. So
you got a chance to get your life back, and here you are. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And when did you get married to your wife?
In the pandemic, 2020. Yeah, September 5th.
Beautiful wedding, gorgeous dress. I was more focused on her. Sorry, I was like,
Yeah, and it was in the pandemic. Same thing, you know. I never thought I was gonna get married, but
here you are breaking generational cycles.
Yeah, constantly, right? Constantly.
That's
like,
fucking amazing.
I'm like in my son's life. My father wasn't. You know, I eventually made peace with my stepfather. You know, and me and my mother were closer than ever. My wife, you know, today my mom likes me. You see, your mom might love you, but to like you is different. I don't think some people understand that. Like, my mom loved me, because I'm her son.
Yeah.
But she likes me today. Like, I bring peace to her life. Like, we sit around and I can actually talk about the ideology she has, like Christianity, because I've actually read that stuff. Another thing, I've always been a reader. That's what I forgot to say. I've been reading books since I was 8 years old, but it was a guilty pleasure of mine, because where I grew up, you had to fucking fake it. You had to like be this facade of like, I'm tough, I'm not a nerd. And in my recovery, I started picking up some good books, and I've opened up my
that you
mind.
might want to share with the audience?
Think and Grow Rich, Outwitting the Devil, both written by Napoleon Hill. The Art of the War of Art, which is not the art of war, it's the war of art, which is for like anybody that's a writer. It tells you how to like battle with that. So like it talks about the amateur and the pro. Like the amateur waits for inspiration. The pro gets started and knows that's the inspiration awakens. So like everyone thinks I wrote these songs. I didn't write these songs. I was just there to catch the ball. And I think only pros can understand that. Like I woke up every day and wrote a certain amount of pages, and then eventually the songs came out to be. So if that makes sense, like I woke up every day consciously knowing like for this hour you're gonna write every day. And some of those never even became songs. Some of them didn't even become good poems. But those songs that you guys hear that are good ones, that's how they got made.
Have you ever gone back and just said, maybe I could use this?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's a couple songs that I wrote when I was locked up that are now coming out.
All your songs, you're telling the story in them.
All of them. From Pelican Bay, I wrote Pelican Bay when I was watching Johnny Cash's documentary on how he wrote Folsom. I wanted to quit music at that time. I knew I had done time and I wanted to write a song about it. From Death Valley, which is like subconsciously like me taking ownership for me, always going back to Death Valley, always going backwards instead of forwards. Cocaine and whiskey, which is obvious, two of the drugs that had me by the balls. Home Sweet Home, Losing Your Way. I mean, Wounded Soldier was even written because I was at a tattoo shop and 3 veterans came in and they told us their story and how they battled with PTSD. So that one wasn't really my story as much as it was me journalizing for somebody else. So that was the only one song that I can say that I didn't write that was specifically about me, but I had to relate to them through my PTSD and depression to be able to write that song. So it was like empathizing with them.
Any new music coming up?
Yeah, I'm working on the second album. I wanna stretch the envelope right now. Obviously, everyone knows me and Vicious for Outlaw Folk in Southern California. I mean, we play for outlaw motorcycle clubs to the 99%, bars and venues. We played the Viper Room, House of Blues, and they know like it's biker music written by a biker to ride your bike.
Yeah.
So on the second album, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going back to my roots, going back to the punk rock stuff.
Nice.
Trying to show people that like I'm a well-diverse writer, and it's not only one genre.
Have you ever tried mixing both of them?
Like the genres?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certain songs that I do that. I think all songs got a little bit of taste of punk. That's why a lot of people say, man, it sounds like Johnny Cash, Social D, some...
It's completely different.
Yeah.
But it's a good kind of different. You know, when I first heard it, and I even showed Crook, and he was like, I never heard anything like that. No, Crook and I are friends.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
But not just for your music, but your inspirational quotes that you go on and, you know, because you're known for that as well.
Yeah.
You go in and you do your videos and you talk about stuff and whatever happens, whatever comes to mind that day, and I'm just like, wow, that's dope. That's dope. Have you ever thought about like, or have you talked to the youth? Like,
yeah, I mean, I like I said, I'm a part of that support group, so like I get a chance to talk to youngsters. I work in recovery. I work in a good treatment center called Lift Off Recovery. Check them out. We work with a lot of people out in Orange County and just spreading the message, you know.
Yeah.
Some people like 12 steps, other people don't. I mean, I'm willing to meet you where you're at, but the main thing is like sobriety and recovery.
Yeah.
And like knowing the difference between those things. So yeah, I've gotten it. I want more chances because like it's like I do know one thing about my story. It has different elements and dimensions to it. Some people follow me on Instagram because they love that I got in sober.
yeah.
Right? Others like that I got some inspirational stuff to say. Others just follow for the music. And like sometimes it's like it's hit or miss. I don't really know. All I know is I'm just me. So I go on there, I talk about the books I read, a little bit of my beliefs and what I've done. Always speaking through action and experience. So I've been blessed to now get my music and put it up online, and it's everywhere. I get DMs from Germany, Australia, Texas, all over the United States, Colorado, Boston. And I mean, for me, it's those moments when they say like, man, your song saved me, dog. Like, from a dark moment. That's better than anything. And like, I want to like really say this because I don't really get a chance to say this. Like, I'm glad that recovery came before money and fame, because it changes the intention too of going into something. I think like at one point, being a drug addict criminal, selfish, I wanted to do music to be able to travel the world, sleep with women, make money doing what I love to do. Today, those are not even a thought. Today, it's making music as I'm trying to change my life, and by doing that, changing other people's lives. And today I do believe I'm successful, and my definition of success is being recognized for the good things you've done, and I've finally done some good stuff where I can be recognized and seen for that. So like being a part of this and being a part of different podcasts and being a part of the company I work for today, I get to do what I love to do, and it's because I really got out of self, and I am of service. So I don't know, I just hope that people find what they want. I'm not only an artist, I'm a businessman. I'm my own manager, I'm my own booking agent, all that stuff. I hope that one day it doesn't have to be like that. It's pretty stressful, and like right now, like I'm mostly trying to focus on my recovery, because without my recovery, I really don't have nothing. And other people might feel different, like they'll want to focus on music and fame and all that. But for me, it's recovery first. It's God, my program, and family. Like my wife even knows that the program comes before her, because without the program, she doesn't even have a husband. Right. You know, and without God, there is no program, because I believe God created everything. I'm not like religious, but I do believe in a higher power. And I believe he's used many things, like me going in jail to change my life, and my music to change other people's lives. He just uses anything. So I just want to stay there and stay right size, humble, you know, and not lose that. So, you know, I picked up another year, you know, today in my recovery.
Congratulations.
And the one thing I do want to leave people here, it's like, there is a difference between sobriety and recovery. Sobriety is I don't drink. Recovery is finding out why you drank in the first place. You don't have to. There is no nutritional value to alcohol. There's nothing great that ever comes from it. I've never met someone say like, oh my God, I drank and my life got better. Yeah. You know, there's definitely moments of fun, but I've seen people that are straight edge had fun. And it would be delusional for a drug addict to think that once he stops doing drugs, his life is going to get better. Because I was messed up even before I started drinking. I was a criminal, liar, cheater, and a thief before I ever put a drug in my system. Now, I would want to blame it on alcohol and drugs, why I ran into that person's pad or stole that person's car for the weekend. But it was already in me. Yeah. And I have to say why. And that's what recovery showed me. It showed me to look deeper. It showed me to look, why do you do that? Because it wasn't the alcohol. Your alcohol didn't take away your kids. Yeah. It was your actions. And you got to think about why. Why did you care about that more than you cared about what you should care about? And I'm not here to judge nobody. I'm not speaking from no righteous hilltops. But I'm telling you, like, get recovery, because abstinence, I've had it. They like to call that dry. I've been a dry drunk. Didn't drink for 6 months. I was miserable. Everyone would have a drink and I would be like, well, I'm gonna drink eventually. And then eventually I did. Today I don't even crave it. Good. But it's by a daily reprieve only. Yeah. On a daily basis that I'm keeping maintenance. And there's still more things to work on. My marriage, my music, my mental health, I exercise on a daily basis. I constantly pick up new books so I can learn new information so I could give it for people and I could do it myself. I go to meetings. I share the message that was freely given to me to a newcomer. And I go to church on Sundays and try to get connected to this higher power. So it's work.
You share your knowledge with your son?
Yes. I believed from the beginning, to be honest with my kid. He does know I battled with alcoholism and drug addiction. He knows I was a criminal. I remember when he was little, I kind of worded it. There's a movie called Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
And Wreck-It Ralph, he goes to these meetings and they're like, we were bad guys, but we don't want to be bad guys no more. And then
I know, my daughter, she's a year and a half and she watches that movie over and over and I'm just like, oh God.
Yeah, and then Finding Nemo, the sharks that don't want to eat the fishes no more.
Right.
So like when he was little, I would do stuff like that. So
That's
yeah,
dope.
and I read with them every day, and I got this book that I read with them. It's called Book of Virtues for Young Men. And it's pretty much little stories, and I read these stories with my son, and I say, "What's that story trying to tell you?" And then he says it, and then we talk on it.
That's pretty good.
When we go to the movies, I take him to movies like, let's say, Soul, or even this new one that came out by Puss in Boots. And I tell him, what's the message? Because I believe everything's programming us.
Yeah.
Everything's telling us, and it's what you're getting.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, anything I can. Right now I got him too. We're reading the story of Martin Luther King. And I'm telling him that, you know, sometimes you got to be courageous and stand up for things even though no one thinks it's right.
Yeah.
You know, Rosa Parks. You know, anything I can do, you know, I let him know that materialistic things fade, you know, to build characteristics and values that actually matter. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's cool to have shiny stuff, but I've had them in the past and they never really fulfilled anything. Today I know, and this message not only goes for my son, goes for anybody that watches this, there is no chemical, materialistic, or romantic solution for a spiritual problem. You're not going to find it in your significant other. You're not going to find it in a chemical, and you're not going to find it in materialistic things. If you did, I mean, Jim Carrey would be happy, but he was depressed for so long.
He was.
You know, so if it was in chemicals, I would have found it alone. I did every drug under the sun, except for acid. It wasn't really my thing, but I did every drug. Never felt happy.
One thing I wanted to ask you earlier, does your son play any instruments?
No, my son's more of a builder.
Yeah?
He's more of he like early, like in my recovery, like not only that, even before I got sober, when they said he was going to be autistic, I got him Legos, and ever since then he's like a builder. He's creative. His mom's a drawer. She's an artist.
Nice.
He's
Does
getting
she tattoo?
No. He's getting into this whole thing where he wants to make movies and comic books.
Nice.
So he's definitely still picking up the art form of creating.
Yeah.
But he never really picked up an instrument. What I have been seeing him pick up is like they got like this beat maker on his tablet, and he's been making beats. So I mean, that's the form of musician I've seen him do.
Yeah.
But it still comes to putting puzzles together.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out, I'm trying to accept him for who he is. Like, even when I read this book of virtues, I tell this to everybody, like, because this book of virtues lets me know what the story is trying to teach. Like, let's say it's a story about courage. Sometimes he won't say the courage part.
Yeah.
He'll say something else. So I don't try to correct him. I just try to accept what he said and glad to see that he's getting something positive from it. And I think that's more how I like to teach. And even when I'm working with a newcomer and we do that step where we're looking at your inventory, I'm not trying to tell you what to see. I hope that you can see it. And like the Christians like to say, blessed are those that can see, because now that you can see the problem, maybe you can see the solution too.
Wow.
So there's a lot of that.
One or about your tattoos.
Okay.
Your most meaningful one.
All of them, but when I was in my depression, I ended up going to Mexico in a desperate moment and try to do like a confirmation baptism thing. I'm older too, so like I remember they did one of those quick ones, like he's only gonna be here for like a month. He's on vacation, he's trying to like sober up. And I met the priest, he's dead now, and he's like, all right, then we'll run it quick. So I did a couple classes with him, and then eventually the day came where they were gonna confirm me, because I was Catholic at the time.
Yeah.
And I went into a room with the padre, and then he's like, all right, tell me your sins. And I dropped it all on him. And I'm like, I just feel like the devil's like trying to take me down, you know? Not even paranoid, you know, nothing, just like on some real. Like, I'm like, I think you guys are right. Like, the devil really wants to kill me. And he's like, here. And he gave me this little thing, and it had the heart of Jesus, right? With the corazón de Jesús. And it said, detente enemigo, que el corazón de Jesús está conmigo. How would that be in English?
It's like
Be.
you stopping all your enemies, like putting a stop to your enemies, because
the heart of God is with me. Yeah. Yes. So he gave me this. Like he gave me this thing, and I'm like, what? This is gonna protect me? You know, and you know how some of us are very, like, some Mexicans are superficial. I mean, whatever. Like, they believe.
Yeah.
That things can protect them. You know, kind of like Richie Valens with his bracelet. So he gives me this. And he's like, here, carry this with you, and it'll protect you. And I remember, I looked at it, and I'm like, you sure? He's like, well, you got to believe in it. And I'm like, all right. And I kept it in my wallet. And I kept it in there, and every time I would always be in those moments, I would always grab my wallet and be like, detente enemigo, que el corazón de Jesús está conmigo. And I would say it all the time. And eventually I said, I'm going to get it tatted. And I got it tatted. But yeah, all my tattoos got meaning. Even my logos for my music, it's the ski mask, because I was a criminal. Like I said, I was never a gangster. Gangster to me, by the definition of what gangster is, at one point, it means that a man is a criminal for financial gains and is a part of a group of criminals. I was never a part of a group of criminals. I was always a criminal for a selfish gain. When I ran into someone's pad, I was getting the money for myself. Didn't have to spread bread with nobody else. I was a criminal. So that's where the ski mask comes from. I did Jales. That's what I did. And then the cross on the top of its forehead is the cross of Saint Dismas. Most of us Mexican know Saint Dismas because in American Me, Santana's mom gives them a cross of Saint Dismas. In Russian culture, it's their saint. Saint Dismas is only in the book of Luke. And in the book of Luke, and you saw it in the Passion of the Christ, there was 2 criminals that got crucified with Jesus. One was a murderer and one was a thief. One was on his left and one was on his right. The one on the left was a murderer. And he said, well, man, if you're God's son, why don't you just kill all these fools and save yourself? He didn't believe him. But the one to the right, which they say his name was Dismas, looked at Jesus and he said, save me a place in your kingdom. And Jesus looked at him and says, today you will be with me in the kingdom. The first guy that ever went to heaven in the Bible was a criminal.
I didn't know that.
And I read that book when I was locked up, and that story stuck out to me, and it still does. And that's my hope, and that's the hope for anybody that's out there. You're a crook, you're a criminal.
Correct.
Guess what? God loves you too.
Yeah.
But you have to believe that that's the truth. And I'm not religious, but I believe if that dude could get saved, just like all the dudes in my support group, like those counselors and bienvenidos, if he can save some fool from a neighborhood like that, active. I mean, one of them I remember shared, he was all tweaked out, or I think he was on PCP, and he had a rifle on top of the freeway looking at the LA sheriffs ready to shoot them. Like, just full-on psychosis. Brought him back, and now he's helping the youngsters. I've seen God today in my life in many ways. I think the word belief is not, belief and knowing is different. Like belief is, there's still doubt. I don't believe in God. I know that God is real. Because he's shown himself in my life repeatedly. I'm not perfect. Relapse is a part of my story. I lost myself. I've cheated. I've lied. And I've gotten high again, you know, or drunk. I've gotten drunk again. But you know, he's still been there for me, you know, and it's never too late. Yeah.
Come on.
It's never too late, you know. He's helping my wife, he's helping my son, and he's helping me, and I know he's the reason why the music is taking off to where it's at. Yeah. Like I said, I never wrote these songs. They were always there. I was just there to catch the ball.
Anything that you have coming up? Any events?
No, like right now, I'm not gonna lie, like I've been really focusing on my recovery and then the second album. So like I know the second album's kind of gonna write itself, but I have to be there to catch the ball. So I'm constantly like focusing on writing. And we're mostly doing private gigs now. Okay. Because like we have an email now, and now since we're known a lot more, people just hit us up and get us for what they want, what they want to get.
Would you like to share your platform?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube under Migs Whiskey, M-I-G-S Whiskey. I'm on Pandora, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music. You could download the album. It's like 10 songs. M-I-G-S Whiskey, Migs Whiskey. The album is called The Whiskey Diaries. We're on TikTok, Migs Whiskey. I'm on Instagram, Migs Whiskey 333. My brother's on Vicious_G. And if you're having a hard time looking for that, Google the name. Today, I'm actually Googleable. You know what I mean? Like you can actually put Migs Whiskey, not a bunch of people come up because, you know, I think everybody can eventually find you on Google, but like for me, I'm the first one that comes up. Nice. Right? So there's only one Migs Whiskey, and that's me, outlaw folk. I've gotten to play with a lot of great artists. Come out. We do a good show. We're worth every dollar. And I just want to be able to do this, like I said. So yeah, second album. You can hire us. The email is migswhiskey@yahoo.com. Email me. We've played a quinceañera. We played a backyard party. We played everything. A wedding. We did a wedding. So they've hired us for some random stuff. You know, we got to open up for Social D. Open up for Tiger Army. We've opened up for a lot of other great bands. I've got to play in like a lot of the great venues that I like to play, that I used to go watch people play at. So that's pretty much it. I don't think I have anything else to really think I can say. It's just we do recovery, you know, and I think anyone can do this. If I can do this, a fucking liar, criminal, thief, cheater, drug addict, alcoholic like me can be here. I'm not special. I just decided to finally humble myself and listen to somebody else. You know, today I'm not on no medications, you know. That's good. You know, I've never had to take medications for my mental health, thank God. But I do have to exercise on a daily basis. I'm sober and clean, but thanks to God, the literature of my support group, and the support of my brothers and sisters in that support group. There's a lot of support groups. You know, today we live in 2023, in the era of information. Look up your problem. If you have insurance and you there's rehabs. You know, if you don't have insurance, you could walk into a support group. May it be one of the 12-step groups that they talk about, SA, Al-Anon, you know, all those. There's so many. And there's churches, you know, and I don't knock anybody's religion. the Buddhist, you know, they got it too. The Muslim, Assalamu alaikum. You know, when I was trying to find a higher power, I read everything I could on higher powers, not only the Bible, because I just didn't know what religion I was.
Yeah.
And honestly, today, like, I know I'm not religious. I do believe in a God higher than me. You know? So.
I want to thank you very much for coming onto the show. Your story is amazing in itself. I think you should write a book, honestly, and just, you know, into details, because it's just, yeah. But congratulations on everything. You have a beautiful family, you know, and I wish you well. I wish you success, and hats off to you, because it's really hard. It's really hard. I don't know too much about like drugs, but alcohol, it's pretty hard, especially when you're going through something really fucked up. You're just like, oh, I just want to numb the pain. And it's tough. And, you know, like you were saying, we're humans. We're going to fall back into certain things, but as long as you keep on getting back up and you got your chance, not too many people get it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell you don't screw it up, because like I said, we're not perfect. You said it yourself too. But it takes a lot, and you did it. And, you know, yeah. But once again, thank you so much. And this is Making Changes, Mixed Whiskey. We appreciate you. Would you like to finish it with anything?
No, just check us out on YouTube, man. Spotify, Pandora. That's it.
Thank you so much.